Little Nemo the Dream Master is a very innovative game in a number of different ways. Most notably, I think it was the first game featuring a boy who would give candy to pedophiles. That's quite the role reversal, am I right? So, story. This game has one, like many of the time, and here's how it goes. In this game, you play a young coma patient named Nemo, who is desperately trying to awake before his parents have to make the difficult decision to euthanize him or not. And I know what you're thinking already. Is that really the story, Kratz? As best I can tell, yes. Anyway, the only way to wake from your series of nightmares is to confront the various creepy creatures that continually accost you throughout this game until you finally accept the probable reality that your uncle or another close and trusted adult did something inappropriate to you. Like, here we've got this guy. Who the flip is this? Oh, it's Flip. As he will tell you, I am here in Dreamland to feed candy to the poor diabetic forest creatures so I can climb in their mouths and move them like a puppet. That part I'm not kidding about, even a little. That's seemingly what your objective is through a majority of this game. Let's try to remember that Nemo is dreaming though, and so none of these creatures are actually being harmed in the making of this production. However, it also brings to light the possibly more disturbing reality that this young man is literally dreaming of drugging animals and wearing their skin like it's his own. But at this point, I'm sure I'm overthinking all of these story elements as much as the game developers were underthinking them, so we'll just move on. The real narrative here is laid out by a lovely young girl named Messenger. Well, it's either that or she is a messenger. She engages in some quick, one-sidedly polite conversation with our young protagonist, as he does his best to trigger any part of her inner feminist. For those of you understandably not bothering to follow along, Messenger is telling Nemo that the Princess of Slumberland would like for him to come be his playmate, and Nemo is shutting her down completely until she gives Nemo some candy from the princess herself. To which Nemo replies, "Anyone smart enough to gimme candy can't be all bad," cementing in my mind the fact that this kid has zero awareness of the term stranger danger. Aside from the ending, which I will be glad to dissect in a moment, that basically leads us to the game at hand. It's a basic platformer with a few little quirks and charms. Admittedly, if you're not thinking of how demented the candy-induced body-stealing aspects of this game are, there's a lot about that game mechanism to enjoy. Each different creature you can commandeer has its own particular set of skills, and if you take their daughter... Wait, no. Each different creature has its own set of skills which are necessary to traverse the level and find the 6 keys required to open the door at the end. The characters I encountered included high-jumping gremlins monster, Monkey Kong, way too cool for this game Salamander, Mole Man, and Jerry Seinfeld. My favorites were obviously Salamander and Seinfeld, but I think the most useful is probably Monkey Kong. He has the most life, can climb walls like the Salamander, and punch enemies, which is easily the best way of dealing with them. I was saddened to see his wall-climbing abilities, though, because I knew that would render Salamander all but useless. Or so I thought, until I met, presumably, Oompy? After swimming through the top part of the lake to fall out of the bottom? Remember, you're in a dream world. I was told that to progress through the next area, I would need the lizard's help. So it must not be a lucid dream, but whatever. Sal's kind of my favorite character, so I was happy to see he was still a useful part of this game. So, I went back to fetch my favorite friend and traverse back to the lake where... this happened. Wow, that was immediately terrifying, and the expression on my best friend's face as he drowned was enough to make my own heart sink deeply into my chest. I later discovered that because Sal turns me into a little gnome whenever I jump on his back, I am able to use him to get through small spaces. That part came in handy for when I finally met and became Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry is probably my second favorite because he can fly and helps to navigate the otherwise impossibly treacherous landscape. Since this game never ceases to throw wave after wave of enemies at you, Jerry is a great character to use for avoiding most of them. It is worth noting, however, that his power of flight is limited. This is something I had to learn the hard way. Gremlin's monster is a close third favorite just because of his sheer adorable factor, and he was the only one that I distinctly remember from my childhood. He jumps high and can flop on top of stuff. That's about it. In the time I spent playing this game, I had a lot of fun, but also died a lot. I beat this game as a kid, and that's good enough for me. I'm fully aware of the fact that I will never again be as good at platformers as I was when I was 8 years old. I've peaked, and I'm willing to admit that. But thanks to our good friends at Video Game Endings HQ, we can dive more deeply into the ending of this vintage masterpiece. After destroying a crazy-looking demon that is almost certainly representative of your terrible and numerous inner demons, you are congratulated by Morpheus? So wait, we were in the Matrix the whole time? I mean, a more astute YouTuber might mention how closely related the name Nemo is to Neo, but I'm not nearly that astute. Matrix or not, Morpheus offers to make us the Prince of Slumberland, which seems to go over pretty swimmingly with his daughter Camille. Being a man of sudden honor and conviction, however, Nemo declines, explaining that he has made a vow to his mother to wake up each morning. He then asks whether or not he's allowed to come back, which seems a stupid question considering the king was about to make him the prince. The aforementioned king gently tells him he may return every night when he goes to sleep, and Camille gives Nemo a kiss on the forehead even though he isn't 18 yet. Then we have Nemo's mother telling him to wake up in an ending that I believe is left open to interpretation. It's my belief that the parents pulled the plug on Nemo and now he is blissfully unaware of his premature demise. But a more literal interpretation would be that he wakes up like any other regular young man and just stares out his upstairs window for no reason for an inexcusably long time. Also, this game was designed by Mickey Mouse. So that was Little Nemo Dream Master, a graphical masterpiece for the year 1905 and technically brilliant for preceding its own console by 78 years. I don't know, I played this game as a kid. And I loved it, every part of it, and I beat it. And I don't think my nostalgia goggles for it are that intense. I just think it's a good game. It's a little more than just a simple platformer in the sense that you're taking on these animals and their different traits, and the levels are kind of built with that in mind. So it's something more like a puzzle platformer, and it doesn't necessarily feel too puzzle heavy either. It's just a well-made game. I think it's pretty fun. It is very challenging, perhaps too much so in some areas, but I rather enjoy it. I think in our contemporary setting where everything gets a reboot, rebrand, whatever, soft reboot, this game could be remade, even by maybe an indie studio, because I don't even know who has the rights for this thing anymore. And yeah, I don't know, I'd love for that sort of thing to happen. In part because I'm a big fan, but I mean, there's just a lot of places you could go with a concept like this. Especially when there was a movie, and it's on YouTube, available ad-free, which is fantastic, that this game is actually based on, called Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland. You can check it out. I think there's a lot of unexplored territory in that movie that if you're going to make another game, you could definitely draw upon. But I'm not a game developer, so just putting the idea out there. You can send me a check in the mail. Alright, I've been Mild Kratz. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoy my videos, please like, comment, subscribe. Any of those things, that helps me out. Or just tune in next time, because I'm always glad to see you. But I'm gonna go now. Bye.